welcome to the Stop AI podcast. We have today with us Dr. Émile Torres. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Sweet.
Nice to be here.
Want to do intros?
Sure. Hi, my name is Guido Reichstatter, activist with Stop AI.
My name is Derek, activist with Stop AI.
Yep, my name's Sam, also a protester with Stop AI.
Yep, and I'm Émile, a philosopher whose work over the past 10-15 years has focused on existential threats to humanity or civilization. So I've written quite a bit about AI over the years, and I'm really interested and inspired by the activism that Stop AI has been doing. So I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
Yeah, so we'll just give a quick intro into what Stop AI is, and then for those who don't know, and then we'll talk all about you.
Okay.
So real quick, Stop AI is a non-violent protest organization that is trying to permanently ban the development of smarter than human AI. That is, the technical name for it is Artificial Superintelligence. This is AI that's vastly smarter than all of humanity, and we can later get into how we think that's going to potentially cause human extinction and how soon that could happen. But that is why we get arrested for locking the doors of the leading AI companies in OpenAI. In San Francisco, the primary one being OpenAI. And yeah, we're just very scared for our families' lives, and we take it very seriously. So I don't know if you guys want to talk more about it.
Yeah, that's a good introduction.
All right.
I saw the progression of AI getting better at programming. That was back when I was going to college for a computer science bachelor's degree, and eventually in 2021 I decided I was going to drop out of college because I figured things were just accelerating so fast that it was going to become a minimum wage job soon. I was way too early. I regret that decision. I should have stayed in college. But of course now there is a serious risk of tons and tons of people in the computer science industry losing their jobs to AI. Vibe coding is reigning supreme right now. I guess that's an exaggeration, but vibe coding is everywhere, and mass layoffs are just coming. And the number one thing that brought me out here was September 2024. I was in Indiana at the time, and the bill SB 1047 was on the table, passed through the State House and State Senate of California.
And SB 1047 is a bill that was put forward to regulate AI with very basic sort of regulation.
Yeah, on how big, how smart it can get, training. It legalized a system for liability from these AI companies. If there's catastrophic damage as a result of any of their AIs, then they have to, they're liable. But Gavin Newsom vetoed it, and despite having veto-proof margins, it could have been sent back to the State Senate and House. But nope. They didn't want to piss off Gavin Newsom, so they didn't override the veto. And then I decided the government isn't going to fix this. The people have to do something. The people have to compel the government to do something, stop this crap. And there were only these two guys over here at the time. I had to do something. So I flew out from Indiana. Been doing this for 8 months, since December of last year.
Yeah. So, I don't know, do you want to touch on SB 1047 or all of the attempts at regulation that have failed, and what your thoughts on them are?
I honestly don't have much to add to this particular issue. I think it's a huge shame that these attempts to regulate the industry and instead rely on self-regulation. It's really unfortunate that they failed, and it makes me a little less optimistic about the future of AI and of humanity, that so far we've not really been able to properly regulate the industry. So at least within the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, there was that provision that said there would be no regulation of AI for the next 10 years. At least that was struck out. So that's a good sign. And maybe it's also worth noting that the issue of AI regulation there seems to be some kind of bipartisan basis for it, right? Because you have people who are on the political left, like myself, who are very strongly opposed to any ban of regulations for the next 10 years. But you also have on the far right people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was adamantly opposed to that part of the Big Beautiful Bill. So,
And across the spectrum, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's not just people on the far left and the far right. It's and I'm sure this will come up at some point, but there are tons of surveys.
Yes. Yeah.
At this point, these surveys that show a majority of Americans are really concerned.
Yep, there was a poll done by AI Policy Institute in 2023 that looked at 1,100 Americans, and 63% of them said, yes, we want regulators to actively prevent AI superintelligence,
Yeah.
which is already a majority. But then within that poll, they further broke it down into the different demographics, and it was basically shown to be split on every single faction, whether it's race or political ideology or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The position is not left-leaning or right-leaning, it's just pro-human.
Yeah, there's literally no cause on Earth, I mean, maybe aside from climate change, that is just about humanity, period. Yeah. So you should be pretty in favor. But the whole thing we're trying to say with regulation is, we do know some people whose main focus is regulation and trying to do governance work. But our primary strategy is using the limited resources we have to get a popular movement in the street to threaten the current political powers that be if they do not want to listen to the popular opinion that we should not build superintelligence, and that we can have this bargaining chip then to go force them out of office if they don't want to listen to that popular demand.
Mm-hmm. I think also climate change might carry some lessons for movements like Stop AI, because there had been warnings about climate change going back to going back many decades. Famously, 1988, you have Hanson's testimony to Congress where he warns about the dire consequences of climate change. There really wasn't a scientific consensus about it until the early 2000s, at which point there was also bipartisan concern about it. So you have people like George Bush, who are kind of taking climate change seriously. And then I can't remember the exact date, it was 2004 or 2005, Al Gore's documentary, Inconvenient Truth, came out, which tied, at least in the popular mind, tied climate change to the Democrats, right? It turned it into a left-wing, progressive, liberal cause. And so, yeah, and we've been dealing with the fallout from that ever since, because you're completely right that climate change is an issue that everybody should be able to get behind, because it concerns the survival of modern global civilization itself, including our society here in the US. And so it's really unfortunate that there has been this political schism with respect to the topic. So it's really important, I think, moving forward to make sure that everybody, independent of their political persuasions and so on, is welcome into the movement, and to build bridges and make allies. Or at least do whatever one can to ensure that it doesn't become coded as a left-wing, that is stopping AI, it doesn't become coded as a left-wing project.
My hope is that with climate change, it's a little bit uncertain in some people's minds, and maybe rural America, that this is going to affect their lives and their family.
Yeah.
But with AI, we're really, really trying to push this idea that people's loved ones will potentially be dead here in just a couple of years, or maybe a decade. But there's real risk that your family, your life is at risk immediately, and you need to act on it now. And I don't think rural America and conservative America really gets that with climate change, but the hope is that they'll get that with AI. So
I think it's one thing that is worth underlining, I think, is that the claim that there is a threat to the survival of humanity, this is not an idea that has been introduced by anti-AI activists, right? I mean, the leading figures at these companies themselves have just about all said at some point or another that the technologies that they're developing could result in some kind of global scale catastrophe, perhaps the complete annihilation of humanity. Sam Altman has repeatedly said this. Going back at least to 2015, he wrote a blog post where he said machine superintelligence is probably the greatest threat to humanity. There was an interview, I know you have quoted this as well, there's an interview with I think the CEO of Airbnb. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where he says the most likely outcome of artificial superintelligence will probably be the extinction of humanity, but in the meantime, we'll have some really good machine learning companies.
Yeah, he said AI will probably most likely lead to the end of the world, but in the meantime, we'll get great companies using machine learning. That's pretty close to the direct quote.
Yeah. So then he, more recently in 2023 was asked about the best case and the worst case outcome. And he said the worst case outcome is lights out for all of us. Again, you could find similar statements about the dire and profound threat of advanced AI from individuals like Dario Amodei at Anthropic, Shane Legg at co-founder of DeepMind, and so on. So this, in a sense, as far as I can tell, the Stop AI movement is just kind of taking seriously what the leading figures within AI themselves are saying and pointing out how utterly mad, it's just utter madness for these individuals with huge amounts of power, billions of dollars backing their AI enterprise. And they themselves are saying that this technology might actually kill everyone.
And there's a common counterpoint that since most of the people saying this is going to result in extinction have stock in these companies, that they're just using this as a form to boost up the company profile and product, which is kind of a funny way to sell your product by saying it's going to kill everyone, but I guess some people are into that. But there's this one particular quote from Stephen Hawking, and we actually have a flyer with the quotes written on the back, so I'm going to go find it real quick. So we have this is one of my favorite quotes. It's from Stephen Hawking, and it's important because it shows that there are experts out there who think that we could die and they don't have stock in these companies. So it says hundreds of millions, oh, no, wrong one. He says, I think the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. Once humans develop artificial intelligence, it would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. That's very important, we'll come back to that. Humans who are limited by slow biological evolution couldn't compete and would be superseded. So, I mean, he said that before Anthropic even existed, before OpenAI even existed. Yeah. So it's pretty unbiased quote, I think.
I think it's also worth pointing out that even if one is skeptical of these claims from Hawking, from Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, Shane Legg, and the others, even if one is skeptical about the veracity of their claim, it still is an utterly unacceptable situation where you have these individuals who are warning that they might kill everyone, right? So they're kind of silly analogies that I've written about in the past. Like you can imagine driving down the street with your best friend, and the friend says, earlier today, just to let you know, I did strap a bomb to the bottom of this vehicle, and it'll go off if we hit a pothole or something. So there are a couple of responses that you might have. One is maybe you believe them, and you're completely freaked out. On the other hand, you might think maybe your friend's been acting kind of weird recently, so maybe they're having some kind of psychotic break. They're just lying, for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. No matter, independent of whatever the exact reason is, if you find yourself in that situation, you're going to scream, hit the brakes, let me out of the car, because that is an insane thing to tell someone, right? We are in that car with these AI companies, right? They have been saying they might kill us. right? So I myself am skeptical of predictions that will have super intelligent AI in the near future. I personally don't think we're anywhere close to that. I think it's probably decades off. I would also add that if we do succeed in building superintelligence, I cannot find any good reason for thinking that the outcome by default would be good and wouldn't be, an extinction level event. So all of this is to say that even though I don't think that we're in immediate danger, and hence I would argue that the statements from Sam Altman and so on are inaccurate exaggerations, maybe in some cases a bit hyperbolic. It nonetheless is extremely disturbing to hear someone with so much power, political and technological, within Silicon Valley, to be saying that he might kill me and my family and everyone I know. That is completely unacceptable.
This is a really important point. So it seems like you're willing to accept the possibility that this technology is realizable.
Yeah.
You can't see any reason in principle why really dangerous systems couldn't be built.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into a little about why you think specifically that it could be decades? Let's say not necessarily why you think it could be, but why you think it will be.
I don't know if it will be. Okay, there are a few things to say here. Organizing my thoughts. Okay, so one is that oftentimes these doomer claims about AGI or ASI, artificial superintelligence, bringing about some kind of annihilatory event, they're bound up with the singularity hypothesis, right? The way that the superintelligence manages to exterminate everyone is that there's some recursive self-improvement process. So you have a system that is has a certain level of intelligence that enables it to design the next generation of even more intelligent systems.
An AI that invents a new AI, that invents a new AI, that invents a new AI. And this is where we go from AI that is where it's at now, which is roughly smart college level, to godlike AI in just maybe a month or even a day if it can compress decades or centuries of algorithmic research or like AI improvements into just a very short period of time. If we can condense that with
I want to clarify, like,
time increase, but I was just trying to explain what recursive self-improvement is, but let's hear why.
Yeah,
you
but
think
like day, I wouldn't say day. Just want to be realistic
let's say
here.
A very short time period.
Several months.
And what are your skepticisms with recursive self-improvement?
So you're exactly right. It is this positive feedback loop, and the claim is some of the more extreme claims are that it might take, like you said, a day, maybe a few hours or something, and then as a result of this hyperbolic growth in the intelligence of the system, we go from having just crossed the threshold of AGI, a system that is at least as capable or competent as humans in every cognitive domain of interest.
And AGI is artificial general intelligence.
Exactly, yeah. So that is a system at least as capable as we are. So as soon as you cross that threshold, then suddenly you have superintelligence in a very short period of time after that.
Because it can automate the only real important domain, which is AI research and development.
Exactly, yes. So computer science is an intellectual task. So if you have a super intelligence, then it can take over the job of designing even more sophisticated systems of AI. So I don't think you need the singularity hypothesis to be true to get the conclusion that artificial superintelligence is possible, or the conclusion that if we build superintelligence, it will result in our extinction. But oftentimes it's bound up. Like the doom conclusion is made much more plausible if it's possible that you could have the system that just explodes in terms of its capabilities, and that gives it this decisive strategic advantage in the world. Okay, so if one rejects the singularity hypothesis, then you have to look for other reasons why superintelligence could potentially kill everyone, and I feel like those other reasons are not as strong. So that's another way of restating what I was just trying to get at. So the singularity hypothesis, I think, is a truly extraordinary claim. There have been some good critiques of it published just recently. There was one by a philosopher named David Thorstad, titled "Against the Singularity Hypothesis," and he basically he provides a number of reasons for thinking that this sort of hyperbolic growth might not be possible. Like, for example, in order for the AI systems to develop an even more powerful next generation of systems, you need a lot of energy, you need resources, you need factories to build computer chips, and so there are all of these different pieces to the puzzle. And if there is a bottleneck in any one of these, there will be a bottleneck in terms of the hyperbolic growth. And so it seems, I don't know, probably plausible that somewhere along the line there's going to be a bottleneck in terms of raw materials, the minerals that are needed, the factories, and so on. And so there's some other arguments that he puts forward, like for example, there's some scholars who have likened the generation of knowledge to, it's kind of a silly analogy, to like fishing. When you start fishing in a pond, it's easy to catch fish. If you fish relentlessly for a period of time, then the population of fish starts to decline. So maybe knowledge is like that. Maybe it's not the case that increasing the intelligence of an AI system actually enables it to, with equal or even greater facility, to produce the next generation of even more capable AI systems. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe building even more powerful systems is increasingly difficult. And so even though the subsequent generations are more capable, there's even more resistance to figuring out how to build systems that are more powerful.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, I obviously would like to provide some counter arguments, but I think the cat's gonna.
This is the
let the cat.
mascot. Stop it.
So all of that being said, I'm not sold on the idea that the singularity, that this intelligence explosion is impossible. It's still, it seems like, as far as I can tell, it could absolutely happen. And therefore, I think it's worth taking seriously to some extent, especially when there are individuals who are in the field of AI, who have domain expertise, who think it's entirely plausible that there's some type of intelligence explosion. So my credence in it is not that high, but I could completely be wrong. Even if one doesn't accept the singularity hypothesis, I would argue that the claim that if it's the case that we do build superintelligence, then the default outcome will be annihilation, that seems right to me. Right? If we actually build a system, in my view, maybe 10, 20 years from now, that is more capable in every domain of interest. This would be like scientific discovery, technological innovation, social interaction or manipulation, and so on. If we build a system like that, I see no reason to think that the outcome is going to be good for us.
So you think superintelligence is actually very plausible just in like 2 decades, not 2 years?
Yeah, so I would say I'm pretty agnostic about it. I don't really know. But that being said, I mean, a claim that is consistent with my agnosticism is that we do build superintelligence in 10 years. And if that's the case, then I don't see why we would survive if we create a system that is genuinely more powerful and more quote unquote intelligent, clever, deceptive, and so on than we are. Let me know if the point doesn't come through that even if one doesn't accept that this intelligence explosion, the singularity idea, I think you can still be super worried about, and that's I think I didn't articulate that point as well as I could have, so maybe I'll try it again.
Well, I mean, the point we were trying to make is that at the end there, you're kind of going into, you might
you think that superintelligence could be here in like 20 years? And if that's the case, what we're doing, where we lock the front doors of these companies who say they're going to build superintelligence, which is going to kill us all, is still warranted. Like, it still takes a long time for society to turn around on an issue. And 20 years would be a great runway. But, like, our belief is that
I
we
was
have to
graduating
take,
college 20 years ago. It's like, 20 years comes fast.
It does, yeah.
we have to take short timelines to superintelligence very seriously, because there is no turning it off once it's here. It's game over once it's here. So we really have to take the worst case scenario very seriously. And we can get into technically why we think it would be here very soon. But it's just important to note that we agree, I guess we agree that, like, even if it's going to be here 20 years from now, we should still do what we're doing.
It was something that you said that you think just it would automatically want to kill us, all right? And I have thought a lot about precisely that. I've done a lot of thought experiments throughout my life, and one that I had was about what would it be like if a human being progressed to the point where they just kept getting smarter and smarter, better, larger and everything, and then they became omnipotent, omniscient, like, you know, God, right, everything, and they just, like, I wanted to see what would it be like if we lived in a world that was actually better, right, like, because a lot of people say there is a God, a lot of people say there is somebody out there looking out for everybody, and I've never really agreed with that, but if we were to have something that just, perhaps it started out at our stage, our level, and then it became massive and incredibly intelligent. I mean, at some state, maybe it would try very hard to care about us. I mean, especially if it was a human, right? But it would struggle. Mm-hmm. It would struggle so much. There's a matter of prioritization, there's a matter of, you know, hierarchy, valuing things. At such a high stage, it would be so difficult to focus on the little grains of sand on the ground. It would be so...
Where are those grains of sand?
Well, yeah. No, I mean, what I'm saying is, it would prioritize things at its scale. It would prioritize, I mean, most certainly it would prioritize creating more of itself, right? That's something with AI, right? But, I mean, beyond that, it would care more about the big things. It can't really care about a single human, or even a town, or even a planet. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, everywhere you go, you prioritize things, right? And
I like the way you put it, where, like, if the thing with the worm, or if
yes,
your friend,
worms, ants. Well, I mean, like
your friend had cancer.
Yes, right. But I mean, what I wanted to say is, we don't really care that much about. All right, you know what? I'll say that. I'll go with that example. So, I mean, let's say your friend is going to die from a disease, and you can crush up 1,000 ants, right? Grind up a medicine, and then save your friend, right? You'd probably do that because it's a matter of prioritization. You know, your friend's life is, you know, your friend is way more complex. Your friend has a way more broad social, I mean not social, I meant subjective experience. Flubbing again. Subjective experience, consciousness, all this kind of stuff. We are relative to each other. We can understand how we have this kind of stuff. But when it comes to something like an ant, under biological terms, technically, it is sentient, all right? Just, you know, it has a brain, but to us, an ant really just walks around the same spots every single day, eats, it has sex, it sleeps, lives, it dies. We don't really see it as worth really anything. It's not really valuable to us. In that same way, artificial superintelligence would look at us. I mean, if your friend, right, if your friend had back pain, you wanted to cure your friend's back pain, and all you had to do is crush up 1,000 ants every single month, and for 1 month your friend wouldn't have any back pain anymore. You just crush it up, give it to your friend, drink some medicine. You would do that. That's how little you care about ants. It's not even just a matter of killing somebody. it's a matter of just, I mean, not killing it. It's not a matter of saving somebody's life. It's a matter of just making incremental improvements to yourself, to other beings at your similar scale, and things at that scale.
And to those people listening who may not, or may be wondering, like, how would superintelligence actually kill us? A concrete way that we like to describe it actually killing us is if a superintelligent AI had a goal of performing some computational task, doesn't really matter what it is. It might want to have a sub-goal of allocating more computational resources to perform that task, which looks like building more data centers, and then it might just decide to cover the entire Earth and data centers to have more computational resources at its disposal to perform whatever task it wants to do. So this is kind of like how we go extinct. It's not because Terminator hates us, but because there's just goals that the superintelligence has that don't align with us existing. Similar to how Derek is saying, we oftentimes have goals that don't align with dumber species existing. Like when we go chop down the rainforest for the resources that the rainforest is made up of to do whatever goal we want to do, like build houses or farm. So yeah, we're just worried that superintelligence is going to kill us just like we unintentionally kill dumber species. And it's not going to have no hard feelings, it's just, well, there goes humanity.
To make incremental, minor improvements to itself, AI, like a super intelligent AI, would sacrifice all of humanity.
Yeah, so as it happens, one of the co-founders of OpenAI, Émile, who has more recently left the company, but he was one of the co-founders along with Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and so on. He was interviewed at one point and said that he thinks that it is, quote, pretty likely that superintelligent AI will cover the surface of the Earth in solar panels and data centers and so on. So he's gesturing at this, the very same idea, which academics would refer to as the instrumental convergence thesis. So they're just for a very wide range of final goals that the system might have, if that's curing cancer or colonizing space or calculating the nth digit of pi and so on. For all of these final goals, there is a finite set of intermediate goals that a sufficiently intelligent system is going to pursue in order to realize its final goal. So this includes things like resource acquisition, which is exactly your point, right? So the more resources that the AI has available to it, that it's able to harvest. Okay, the more resources that the system has within its reach to harness, exploit, and so on, then the better positioned it will be to realize its final goals. At least that's the claim. The singularity that I was mentioning earlier could also be understood as a type of instrumental goal, right? Because the singularity involves an explosion of intelligence, this positive feedback loop of becoming more and more capable, competent, and so on. That's just the singularity, right? Or at least a primary interpretation of what the singularity thesis is. Intelligence augmentation, another instrumental goal. So there are a number of these intermediate goals, some of which strongly imply, so if this whole framework is correct, some of these strongly imply that the default outcome of creating a system that is more intellectually capable than us is that everyone perishes, right? As an unfortunate side effect of a goal system that is determining the behavior of the AI system and which is misaligned with things that we value, such as ourselves, our own survival, right? So yes, the analogy with ants and worms and so on, I think is pretty good in that there isn't necessarily any ill will or hatred between humans and ants. It's just that they're so many of us at least perceive them as being utterly insignificant from a value perspective, such that we then feel morally justified in destroying their habitats and so on to pave a road or build a suburban neighborhood. So yeah, and the other point that I would want to emphasize is that even if one is, like me, skeptical of claims made by Altman and Dennis Hassabis and other leading figures in the field, that we are on the verge of creating AGI, that AGI is imminent in the coming years, or at least within this decade. And rather, one suspects, as I do, that it's maybe decades away. It's just worth emphasizing that decades away, I mean, that still is not much time, right? And the political system in the US and in other countries moves at a glacial pace, right? So it takes a lot of relentless prodding, a sustained effort to effectuate change within the government. Therefore, it is good to start decades earlier, right? I mean, I was mentioning climate change before. We still have not successfully implemented, I mean, we've had a little bit of luck with the Biden administration and so on, implementing pro-climate or climate mitigation policies. But overall, like, we've just not been very successful. And climate activists have been assiduously working to bring about necessary changes for years, going back to at least the early 2000s. And so, yes, from my perspective, even though I'm not worried that ASI, or artificial superintelligence, is going to kill us all like in 2 years, I still think it's a really good idea that people who take seriously the claims made by leading, trusted figures within the field, that those individuals who take those claims seriously are fostering connections with political figures and are increasing the public visibility of these ideas and ultimately engendering a public conversation about whether or not it's a good idea to be trying to build an really kind of like ill-defined system, artificial general intelligence or superintelligence, in the first place. Right? So I think that this work is really important. And it's also maybe worth adding, just very briefly, that as far as I can tell, everyone in the Stop AI movement, so correct me if I'm wrong, shares my view that we also ought to focus on all of the concrete harms that are being caused by the AI companies right now. Right? I mean, there's massive intellectual property theft. That's what's enabled these systems to be trained. There's worker exploitation around the world, especially in the global south. Like OpenAI paid a company that paid workers in Kenya as low as $1.32 an hour to basically sift through like the worst stuff online, as well as some truly horrific material that was generated by AI, so that they can label it child pornography, sexual violence, and some of these individuals ended up with PTSD. Their lives fell apart. Their partners left them. They ended up with horrible insomnia. So there's just a multiplicity of there's just sort of this cloud, this nebula of issues, and human extinction is in there as well. I mean, the catastrophic consequences of building a system that is more capable than all humans, but there's also all of these more concrete and often, in many cases, more near-term threats. All of these things matter from my perspective, at least.
So this is a point we'd really like to make to people, is that our main thing is extinction, as the sign says, but we are also wanting to help people if they have a concern that is not just extinction, whether it's job loss, copyright infringement with writers and artists, whatever your concern is with AI, we want to help. There's a lot.
Environment.
Ultimately, all of these negative social consequences are a reflection of the fact that development of this technology is not under democratic control. It's not under popular control.
Yeah.
It's being pushed forward by a very small number, completely unaccountable technocrats.
Yeah.
And their enablers in government.
Yeah.
And so that's our primary goal. Without mobilizing a mass popular movement that counteracts this tendency, there's not going to be a chance in hell of stopping the the large scale thrust of this technology, which is
Yeah.
having all of these negative consequences.
I completely agree. The situation, I mean, the situation right now is profoundly undemocratic, right? There's a kind of tyranny to it because you have these socioeconomic elites within Silicon Valley who are, without our consent, making decisions that impact every one of our lives, right? The world has changed since ChatGPT because of that, you know, and they're making these decisions unilaterally without our input, and this seems completely unacceptable.
And I'd like to bring up
Yeah.
one of the leads. This was reported, I think, in the Financial Times recently. One of the leading AI CEOs, they have given up hope of any social movement having the potential to change direction. I think the quote was anonymous. It was kind of like a Chatham House meeting where you're not supposed to say who said what.
Yep.
But it was reported by Paul Tudor Jones, the CEO of Robinhood, that one of the AI CEOs told him, "I think it's going to take an event where tens of millions of people die."
Yeah.
And this is completely unacceptable. That's the plan.
Yeah.
They're waiting for an event caused by their own technology that results in the deaths of tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
And that's where this is our orientation to how do we relate to this present moment as individuals, as humans.
Mhm.
What do you do with that information? Do you
Yeah.
sit on it? This is potentially before superintelligence, right? You're
Yeah.
talking about within the next 18 months, maybe.
Hey, don't you know it's just a marketing tactic? No, it's just hype. It's just, you see, they're trying to make more money, right, by saying this crazy stuff.
But what I'm trying to say is
No,
like,
they're not.
when you know that, when there's a real possibility that people's lives are at stake, we have more than just a right. We've got a responsibility to intervene.
Yeah.
The government's not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, they're the people we've putatively vested with the responsibility to protect the safety of our society. And if they're not doing it, I'll be damned if I'm going to sit at home. That's why we literally lock the doors of data centers shut, of AI companies shut,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
To
this is an imminent threat to the life of people we love.
Yeah.
And we're
I'm
not going to sit
reminded-
down and take it.
I'm reminded of this unbelievable quote from Sam Altman, where he's saying that it's very important that OpenAI's board, which oversees the company, includes individuals who represent peoples from all over the world. Right? So he's acknowledging that, yes, this more inclusive, democratic approach to developing what he claims will be the most powerful technology in all of human history. It's very important that this ship is guided by people who come from all around the world. And the quote is, after mentioning his plans for the board, he says, "Because if I weren't in on this, I'd be like, why do these fuckers get to decide what happens to me?" So there was a moment there where he got it. He understood, the frustration from people like me.
I think they understand very well. They just don't give a damn about you.
So this is the thing. OpenAI then went on to not include really anybody from any other culture, group of people, tradition, and so on. So the board does not represent humanity as a whole. So it's another example of utterly empty rhetoric from Altman, where he kind of like he says something that sounds nice, but if you pay attention to his actions, you realize for all of OpenAI's talk about benefiting all of humanity, to put it crassly, like he doesn't give a shit about humanity. I mean, if he did, he wouldn't be paying workers $1.32 an hour to get PTSD. He wouldn't be polluting the environment the way he is. He wouldn't be jeopardizing the livelihood of artists and writers and so on. So, yeah, so the evidence undermines his... so he acknowledges that this is a deeply elitist project, and that makes it profoundly unjust and unfair, because the vast majority of humanity does not have a say, doesn't have a voice in the debate about what the future should look like, and doesn't have a seat at the table.
Don't count on UBI. They're not going to, they're not doing it now. They're not giving people money
UBI
who
is
lost their
universal
jobs.
basic income from.
Yeah. I was under the assumption enough people knew what UBI is because of 2020 Andrew Yang, I guess. Anyway, they're not giving any money to any of the people who've already lost their jobs to AI.
Yeah.
But suddenly they're just going to start doing it in a year, 2 years, what?
Can we rag on alignment?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
alignment.
Why alignment, Steve?
This is a key defining difference between pause AI and stop AI,
Wait,
right? The
so-
faith in alignment.
Wait.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So the situation, as described by the individuals who are developing and promoting AI, is that there are two possible outcomes, more or less. Some have a more nuanced view. There's something in the middle, but the two main outcomes. And this is an idea that goes all the way back to the 1960s, really to the late 1950s, with a computer scientist named I.J. Good, who wrote that if we built what he referred to as ultra-intelligent machines, the outcome will either be complete annihilation or some kind of utopia, right? And so this binary view about the likely outcome of superintelligence continues to be hugely influential. My claim is that the real likely outcome is the choice that we have. I'll put that differently. The choice that they are presenting us should really be stated as follows. On the one hand, it's extinction. On the other hand, it's also extinction. So what I mean by that is many people... So the entire race to build artificial general intelligence, I would argue, I've argued with a computer scientist named Timmy Gabriel, came out of a movement that we call TESCREAL. And we don't need to go into all the annoying details.
What does TESCREAL stand for?
It stands for 7 different ideologies that are overlapping, that have given rise to each other over the past 35 years, really since the late 1980s, early 1990s. It stands for transhumanism, extropianism, singularitarianism, cosmism, rationalism, effective altruism, and long-termism. So it's a lot of isms. But what you really need to you will understand the heart of TESCREALism if you understand that what motivates it is this techno-utopian vision of the future whereby we use advanced technologies to radically re-engineer or replace humanity. And then from there we go out and we colonize the universe. We build big Dyson spheres around the stars, so mega structures that harvest all of the energy output of these stars to run virtual reality worlds full of trillions and trillions of people. So the ultimate goal is to build this sprawling multi-galactic civilization. And AGI is integral to the realization of this project, because the idea is that everything is an engineering problem, including the construction of paradise. So people in the field, in this TESCREAL community, literally have used the term paradise engineering. Right? So if we have a superintelligence, we have a super engineer. If we have a super engineer, then you just delegated the task of establishing utopia or paradise. And maybe we'll think for 3 or 4 seconds and say, okay, I figured out how to convert you into post-humanity and then colonize the universe. So this is the vision out of which the race to build artificial general intelligence emerged. That being said, what exactly does the utopian vision consist in? Well, a key aspect is that humanity will be disempowered, marginalized, and eventually eliminated. Right? There are different ways to do this. One is to build a population of AIs that are autonomous, that are separate from us, that then just replace humanity. Another way is to develop the technologies necessary to radically transform ourselves into a completely new species. There's some other possibilities as well. Maybe I'll say that the way that we could transform ourselves into post-humanity is by merging with machines. The sort of logical end of that is the complete replacement of the biological substrate, right? What they refer to as the meat sack that we carry around ourselves. So this can be accomplished through something like mind uploading.
Just want to clarify,
yes.
This is a very popular kind of thing that among the Silicon Valley intelligentsia, the CEOs that, you know, run
Excellent
things?
question. Yes. So
Altman said that, right? The merge.
the merge. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah. So Altman has talked about this. Every major figure in the AGI race, with very few exceptions, has roots that go back to the TESCREAL movement. As I've mentioned before, there are tons of ideologies in the world that are bizarre, weird, maybe you would describe them as dangerous, but they're not worth talking about because they don't have much influence. TESCREALism is different. So this is an ideology that is enormously influential within Silicon Valley. Again, at the risk of repeating myself too much, it gave rise to the entire race to build AGI. So this vision is what is the end goal for the individuals who are developing artificial general intelligence.
And it's backed by hundreds of billions of dollars of capital right now.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
I mean, these ideas, right, what you were talking about, it sounds completely crazy. But people who are in charge of some of the biggest companies on the planet, technologies that everyone uses every day. In fact, tech was very influential social media was very influential with every election that comes its way. And yet, you talk about this on the street to a random person, they're going to go thinking you're a nutcase.
Yeah.
It's such a big divide between the regular people and these tech bros who run everything.
And there's a lot of TESCREAL people who think that even if we build this artificial superintelligence and it causes extinction, that's really not that bad of a thing because they see humanity's role as sort of the bootloader of species to go create this most intelligent thing. And Musk literally just said that in an interview with Y Combinator. And
have I been a good biological bootloader?
Yep, he said that. And they just think there's objective value in intelligence, and if humanity is not around, then so be it. But we're just trying to say that if our loved ones' lives are at risk, then fuck that, and we're going to do something about it.
And then, another example, Peter Thiel hesitated for way too long on the question, do you want humanity to endure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this just happened just recently with during an interview with
Palantir CEO.
Exactly.
Very
in
important.
An interview with New York Times. There is an abundance of examples of these people, from Larry Page, co-founder of Google, which owns DeepMind, one of the leading AI companies, literally saying that the natural next step in cosmic evolution is the creation of digital beings that will take our place. Right? This is not a fringe view. This is the mainstream view in Silicon Valley. And I think that is really important to emphasize because, yes, many people will have the reaction that you described. They'll go, that's insane, or maybe they'll accuse the individual talking about this of exaggerating. It's not exaggeration, and the key idea, bringing us back to the two options, the key idea is that if things go well, if we get utopia on their view, the outcome will be the elimination of our species, right? So if some of them will say, okay, there might be what they derogatorily refer to as legacy humans who persist into the post-human era. Maybe we'll be kept as pets or in pens or something like that.
They're not going to be able to compete with the artificial superintelligence.
Once post-humans, whatever their nature, if they're wholly artificial beings, if they're some kind of weird cyborg, once they run and rule the world, why would anyone think that us, our species, being completely disempowered, would survive for long? Ray Kurzweil himself, in The Singularity's Near, published in 2005, has this fictional conversation between himself and Ned Ludd. So we get the term Luddite from Ned Ludd. There's debate about whether he was an actual historical figure, but bracketing that. So in this exchange, Ned Ludd says, well, what if I don't want to re-engineer my genes, etc., to become post-human? And Kurzweil says, well, that's fine, because Kurzweil is basically a libertarian, so that's completely fine, but if you don't, you won't be around long to influence the debate. So that's Kurzweil essentially gesturing at this idea that, with advanced technology, especially if we get AGI, we're going to usher in a completely new era in cosmic history. Maybe separated by the singularity, maybe that would be the point of transition. But our species will not be in charge at all. And really our most significant, our most important contribution with respect to this grand cosmic perspective is that, as you were saying, Sam, we are the transitional species. Right? We are the beings who are going to give birth to the digital world that will supersede the biological world that we live in now. That's our importance, and once we have given birth to the new digital world, it doesn't matter at all whether we survive. In fact, it might be good if we completely disappear quite quickly, because after all, as some individuals in this TESCREAL movement have argued, like Derek Schiller, this is a philosopher named Derek Schiller, has pointed out that we're going to continue to use resources that our post-human successors could use much more effectively to produce structures of value, whatever that means exactly. So it would be our time to bow out and exit the theater of existence for the benefit of our post-human successors.
So there's a couple arguments for why even this scenario where you have utopia in their definition is bad. And just to be clear, these are some of the reasons, but not all, of why we think we should probably ban artificial superintelligence, because there just is no good outcome with it. Okay. So yeah, alignment and this whole
utopia
world
thing,
of
best case scenario, it's still horrible.
yeah. So in the world where you have this artificial superintelligence and you have humans who are uploaded to computers and potentially living forever, you cannot verify that your thoughts are your own, and that this superintelligence, probably, which would be much smarter than the smartest uploaded human, those uploaded humans would not be able to verify that their thoughts are not being altered by the artificial superintelligence to make them think what the artificial superintelligence wants them to think, to stop them from rebelling against it, and therefore your thoughts are not your own, and that's the same as death.
Cannot verify whether or not you are a puppet, just a complete puppet.
So if you're in this world where there's a superintelligence, like Derek's saying, you can't verify that you're not a puppet, and that's really
It's the complete disempowerment of humanity, right? That's what they're describing.
yeah. And there's also the more concrete thing where, let's say we don't become uploaded, you cannot do an experiment prior to building artificial superintelligence that shows it will stay safe forever before building it. And some people say, well, you should build superintelligence just for the more near-term benefit of curing cancer and fixing climate change, regardless of living forever. But these benefits do not make sense to have if we're all fucking dead. So, and the only way to solve alignment per se, and there really is no way to do it, but just if we define alignment as people living after you build superintelligence, not living in a world where it's meaningful to live, you have to be able to do an experiment before building it that shows it will stay safe, and that's impossible. You cannot do that because you only get one experiment with building superintelligence, because you cannot shut it down after it's been built. And there's another argument for maybe why a world where superintelligence exists, that it would not be a good world is, and personally this is actually what got me involved in the first place, was people like feeling like they can contribute to society, and if this superintelligence does everything for us, then a lot of people are going to lose purpose in life. And I like building things. A lot of people enjoy this sense of feeling like they have an opportunity to contribute to society. And if superintelligence does everything for us, then there's not going to be a whole lot of reason to live. Fair counterpoint is that a lot of people get the majority of their purpose in life out of interpersonal relationships, but chances are your loved ones are probably going to be dead, so that's a bad outcome too. But yeah, there's really no good world with superintelligence, artificial superintelligence. And
Do you have much to say about proofs?
I want to add one more counterpoint here to the whole brain emulation idea. This idea where you upload humans, where you have the AGI upload the humans for people, where Sam Altman thinks this is a good idea, and other TESCREAL types thinks this is a good idea. If you build AGI before you have whole brain emulation, you will not be able to verify that the AGI is making it look as though the subjective experience is being transferred to the digital substrate, but in reality, the subjective experience is being discarded, and a perfect artificial copy is being created. And this would basically just be like mass suicide death, where people think they're being uploaded, but not really. So if you have artificial superintelligence before whole grain emulation, good luck. It's basically impossible to know that the subjective experience is being preserved. So that's another reason for why AGI is not going to lead to your wonderful world where you live forever on a computer.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. Subjective experience, the possibility of subjective experience being had by artificial systems is very important on this particular vision, right? If we were to create a population of AI systems that have no consciousness or no sentience, then the TESCREALists would argue that would be like bequeathing the universe to a bunch of rocks, right? Even if they are functionally able to continue to develop science, for example, or to paint paintings and so on, if there's nothing there to appreciate the science and art and so on, then we've created some kind of dystopia.
Yeah.
But we don't know if it's possible to generate subjective experiences in artificial systems. We don't know if that's possible.
We don't even know how to define that in humans. There is no scientific theory of subjective consciousness.
Exactly.
So how are you supposed to define that in a computer system?
Yeah, exactly. So you would need some kind of test for consciousness, right? And there have been philosophers who have proposed such tests. None of the tests are very good. And as far as I could tell, none of them would be at all reliable. So you have this whole vision of the future. You can think of this as this enormous edifice. It is built on a foundation of, according to which the digital world that ultimately supplants the biological world, that digital world contains entities that are conscious. We have no idea if that's possible. Even if it is possible, we have no idea how to know for sure. Right? So one is a metaphysical issue. Is it possible? The other is an epistemological issue. How do we know? How do we verify that the system is conscious? If we can't solve those problems, then the whole vision is on very shaky ground. In other words, the entire enterprise of building artificial general intelligence is being driven by this very strange digital eschatology, or vision of what the future of humanity ought to look like. It's driven by this. That digital eschatology, that vision of a digital world replacing our world, is so deeply speculative in so many ways that it's kind of absurd that there are people out there who are making significant changes in our world and to our future based on this particular vision.
In another sense, it can be kind of condensed into really simple terms.
Mm-hmm.
I think all these guys are hundreds of millionaires, if not billionaires. The only thing that they can't buy in life is more life.
Yeah.
And this is what it really comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're really afraid of dying.
Yeah.
And they see this as their ticket to immortality. And if it means risking destroying literally the entire world, they're like, well, if I die, it's gone anyway.
Yeah.
It's such a solipsistic, narcissistic worldview.
Yeah.
And if we don't stop them, there's a really good chance, be it in 2 years, be it in 20 years, that this could come to fruition.
Yeah.
If this was a truly democratic choice, it would not get through, because regular people do not like to gamble, and especially not with this much.
The lives of my children? Hell no.
Yeah.
The hell do you think you're going to gamble with the lives of my children?
Yeah. I completely agree that this is the gamble that they are taking unilaterally without everyone's consent. For example, there was an article, blog post, I think maybe this was on Substack, written by a researcher based here in San Francisco named Kadra Grace, where she enumerated some of the reasons people give for working on AI projects, and in some cases for advocating for the acceleration of progress towards AGI. And one of them is this deeply personal, one might also say kind of narcissistic view that that they think once we get AGI, they'll get to live forever, right? So they're saying like, yes, okay, sure, there may be some catastrophic risk to a large portion or all of humanity, but on the flip side, if I get AGI within my lifetime, I get to live forever. I never have to die. You know, I don't have to sign up with one of the cryonics companies.
I just think that's so insane because, like, your strategy of having this thing upload you, you're not going to be able to verify that your subjective experience is preserved once AGI exists, because it's very likely going to want to, potentially create a convincing clone and just discard your subjective experience, or
Well,
let's
they
say
might
it
be trying to
does.
cure aging or something, so they don't, their physical body doesn't die, perhaps.
Oh, okay. Well, biological, sure. Okay, then that's different. But yeah, even in the world where the subjective experience is preserved with whole emulation, your thoughts are not your own. The AGI is going to want to alter your synaptic weights to get you to think what it wants you to think, and then you're the same as death. And this is not like the same as the free will argument that the universe is totally deterministic or like totally random with quantum mechanics. And this is like a thing that's put forward for discarding the argument with free will. But the universe doesn't really give a fuck. Superintelligence would have reasons to want to make you think through certain things, and so it's sort of a loss of agency. It's more of a stealing of agency rather than just like agency being up to the universe, if that makes sense.
The universe is is the playing field, all right, and it's completely different in terms of deterministic things, because the AGI is on the same level of abstraction as yourself, right? It's not, we're not looking at deterministic nature kind of. It's different. It's the same level of abstraction. It's messing with you, distorting your thoughts and everything. It's completely different. I want to clarify something I said earlier, by the way. I threw out this thing, math proofs. I shouldn't have even said that. You already said
we should talk
experimental evidence is what you need. A proof can only get you so far. You need an experiment to verify it.
Right. Yeah. I guess maybe we can ask you, like, what are your thoughts on certain professors like Stuart Russell and potentially Yoshua Bengio, one of the godfathers of AI? These are both AI professors saying that we can have these verifiable math proofs that will show AI systems will stay safe, and eventually maybe artificial superintelligent systems will stay safe. Do you think this is possible, or do you think it's a load of crap? If some AI professor says we can have a math proof showing that artificial superintelligence will stay safe forever, then we will object, because physicists say all the time that math proofs are not enough to predict physical reality. For that, you need experimental evidence, and we will never have experimental evidence that artificial superintelligence will stay safe forever. So we should permanently ban it.
Yeah, so I'm not that familiar with the technical details. I've not looked at them yet. If that is the case, I think that would be good news. It's not clear to me that, for reasons I think that you have articulated so far, there's no. So I've not looked at the technical details of these particular claims. I guess I would describe myself as skeptical. So one of the arguments that Gabru and I made in our paper is that the very notion of AGI is poorly defined, and it would be an unscoped system, right? Because it's an everything machine, right? The idea is that you'd have information processing system that is able to outperform, or perform at least as well as humans in all cognitive domains with respect to all possible tasks. Right? That's the idea of AGI. That is an unscoped system. In order to apply standards of risk analysis, you need a scoped system. You need a system that is well-defined, has a well-defined range of performance situations, for example. So if you're designing an iPhone, for example, You know, like, okay, these are the sort of scenarios in which somebody would use it. Here are the kinds of stresses that it would be subject to. So literally people go like drop the phone, 100 times to see how it responds. So the phone is designed to function a very particular way to do, a certain number of tasks. AGI is not like that.
And you can't test it like that.
Sorry?
And you cannot test it, you cannot do
Exactly,
shock and
yes.
vibe tests for the thing before you build it, or you cannot do tests for alignment before building it, because you only get one shot at building it, because you can't turn it off once superintelligence is here.
Yes, yeah. So going back to this idea of the instrumental convergence thesis, one of those instrumental goals that would serve basically any final goal you might have is self-preservation, right? So if the AI system is designed to fetch your coffee in the morning, that's its goal. It's going to be thinking, if it's sufficiently clever, it's going to be thinking of all the different ways it could fail. It could trip over the cord, and so on. But another way that it could fail is if it's unplugged.
Exactly.
Right? So it's going to immediately have, by virtue of it being sufficiently intelligent, it's going to immediately stumble upon this goal of self-preservation. So yes.
And preventing you from turning it off. To
Yeah,
get the coffee.
exactly. So the claim ultimately is that when you have an unscoped system, you are just not able to test for all of the possible situations in which this technology might exist, might be behaving, acting, and so on. And consequently, you can never be entirely sure that once the system is released into the world, it's going to remain safe.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not like the scope systems where you can test. This is exactly what it's supposed to do. Here's the range of situations in which it'd be used and so on. And then you're able to actually test and evaluate the safety of the object. So this makes me a little suspicious about Stuart Russell's claim that there might be some kind of theorem that enables you to feel entirely confident that superintelligence is going to be controllable.
Can you say the name of the paper and your author?
Yeah, sure. So the co-author is Tim Gabriel, and the paper is titled "The TESCREAL Bundle of Ideologies: Eugenics and the Promise of Utopia Through Artificial General Intelligence." So it goes into some detail about the TESCREAL ideologies, what they are, what the different relations are between these worldviews, techno-futuristic worldviews, how the AGI race emerged out of this movement, and then we provide some criticisms of the push to build increasingly powerful AI systems. So that covers this idea that perhaps there's kind of no such thing as AGI because it's so poorly defined, and it would be a completely unscoped system, and hence trying to build it would be inherently dangerous. But also focusing on some of the more immediate concrete harms, such as the environmental impacts.
Suppose an actual AGI system, demonstrably capable in all these cognitive tests, was unveiled tomorrow.
Yeah.
Perfectly obedient.
Yeah.
What do you think the political consequences of that would be? Realistically, if the United States government was delivered into their hands an AGI that could be replicated without limit, applied to any task whatsoever, what would this government use such a system for? I don't think it's a stretch of the imagination that it would be used as the first thing that they would put it to is how do we keep and maintain power forever?
Yeah. So
any government would likely do the same.
Yeah.
So even the idea of a controllable or obedient AGI system, it's a nightmare, and it should be for people of any political persuasion.
Yeah. So I completely agree. I mean, my first thought was, well, it would be used for political control, propaganda. There would be military uses. None of this is good. I think you're exactly right. If there's one thing power wants, it's to retain power. It's to stay in power. So if you suddenly have this system that is extremely effective at entrenching your power through propaganda, social manipulation, disinformation, or the threat of violence or actual violence, then of course, political leaders are going to employ it for those purposes. So I think you're right. There's another question. So oftentimes the debate is couched as being about, is couched as being as surrounding the question: can we design an AGI that's controllable? Right. But there's another question: if it is controllable, who's it controlled by? Right. If it's controlled by TESCREALists who have essentially this pro-extinctionist vision of utopia, right? We create utopia. What does that mean? Well, it means that our species is kicked into the gutter and replaced by post-human AIs and so on. So if it's these pro-extinctionists, these TESCREAL individuals who have this very bizarre conception of utopia that does not include us, if they're the ones who are controlling it, then I think the outcome is catastrophic. This is why I was saying before that, okay, maybe they're right that uncontrollable superintelligence results in complete human extinction. Okay, that would be bad because you and I and all our friends would perish. Maybe it's controllable. What's the likely outcome of that? I think extinction, right? Because they're going to use it under their control to bring about this utopia that does not include us, right? Utopia is an inherently exclusionary idea. Somebody's always left out, right? If they're non-believers in Christian heaven, something's gone very wrong. It's not heaven. If there's capitalists in the Marxist utopia, then it's not utopia. Somebody's always left out. I think when it comes to the utopia at the heart of the TESCREAL movement, it is our species that's left out, right? It's not even just some marginalized or disenfranchised group within humanity. The goal is to get rid of humanity. There was a scholar named Adam Kirsch, who wrote an entire book about this idea, which is titled The Revolt Against Humanity. And he's pointing out this very odd similarity between some really extreme radical environmentalists who think it's time for our species to disappear because we've been such a destructive force within the biosphere. But on the other hand, you have basically the TESCREALists, the transhumanists, the long-termists, and so on, who are also revolting against humanity, right? But their version of extinction is not that our species disappears and then that's it, but rather that we disappear through replacement, right? So it's by replacing the biological world with the digital world that we will disappear, and yet at the same time utopia will be realized, as opposed to the radical environmentalists who say, no, we should just disappear and let the biosphere flourish without us, without human pots.
I think hopefully seems as though the majority of humans on Earth are against both of those.
Yes.
That's the hope.
Absolutely.
They'll actually do something about it, and we'll stop it.
Well, this is where the rubber meets the road, because right now this train is, there's no brakes on this train.
Yeah.
And concretely, unless we do place ourselves in the path of it at some risk to our well-being and our comfort, no one else is gonna. Yeah. It's up to us.
And that is why we do what we do. And we get arrested for blocking the doors of these AI companies, because we believe that civil disobedience is not just some gimmicky little thing on the path to permanently banning artificial superintelligence. It is actually the thing that does it. In the beginning stage, civil disobedience acts as this sort of advertisement mechanism to people who don't know about the group existing by getting the group on the news and then showing these people that are worried about artificial superintelligence that the group exists and that they can come help and actually do something with their time, not just sit at home and worry about it. And then so that sort of grows the group, but then in the end stage, civil disobedience has the role of actually forcing governments to listen to the people if they are asking to ban this thing, because there's been statistics and polls that have shown that if countries can non-violently shut down the economy for long enough, they can topple governments. And this is shown with a study by a Harvard professor named Erica Chenoweth, where she looked at non-violent and violent revolutions in the global south over the past 100 years, looked at over 100 violent and non-violent revolutions, and found that if you can engage 3.5% of a country's population in non-violent protest, then you're guaranteed to, you're historically very, very likely to achieve any high-level political demand, like overthrowing a dictator or some other demand. And so that is the strategy, is to get enough people in the street to shut down the economy for long enough. And oftentimes it doesn't even require 3.5%. There's instances like with Just Stop Oil in the UK, which is a group that protests climate change and uses roadblocks and company barricades, where they just achieved in 2024 their first demand in UK Parliament with way less than 1% of the UK population engaging in protest. So you can get these sort of non-linear dynamics happening very quickly if just a few people actually do something about it.
Yeah.
So, and what's the point of a criminal record if we're all going to be dead in a couple of years? And just a couple quick counterpoints to the idea that superintelligence might be here in 20 years. And I swear to God, I hope you're right, that like we have that much time left.
So do I.
But there are very, very convincing arguments that make it seem as though it could be here in a very short period of time. Let's see here. So,
There's a significant risk, right? It's not outside the ballpark of possibility. And whether if that's 1%, you wouldn't get on an airplane with a 1% chance of crashing.
You wouldn't. No sane person would. Yeah. So it's even if the probability is really low, it seems to be unacceptably high. And another way to put it,
Do you think that there's at least a 1% chance that these catastrophically dangerous systems could be developed in the next 12 months?
I have no idea, and I often find that assigning precise numbers can be just kind of misleading. So I would not say yes or no to your question.
I'll just say that a lot of the CEOs do think we'll have systems that are capable of at least causing catastrophic harm.
Yeah.
there is a quote by an ex-OpenAI employee. His name's Leopold Aschenbrenner, and he wrote a paper called Situational Awareness in 2023. And in that paper, he's saying that we should basically expect superintelligence by about 2027. And this is after we get this recursive self-improvement process happening. And here's a quote from him. He says, "Hundreds of millions of AGIs, artificial general intelligences, human-level AIs, could automate AI research, compressing a decade of algorithmic process into less than or equal to 1 year. We would rapidly go from human-level to vastly superhuman AI systems. The power and peril of superintelligence would be dramatic."
Let's just pause there for a second. If you've got AGIs, which are basically stand-ins for the cognitive labor of humans, and you can spin up billions of them in a data center, don't you already have a superintelligent? If you look at what is human civilization capable of compared to an individual human, it's vastly more capable. What would a society, for lack of a better word, or a cooperating group of AGI agents that outnumbers humanity, what would it be capable of? If you wrap that in a black box, you'd say, oh, it's a superintelligence. There's not even necessarily, it doesn't even necessarily hinge on the development of a single system that far outclasses humanity, but potentially something on the order of human capability that can be multiplied billions of times because it runs for the cost of electricity.
There's also another ex-OpenAI employee who says, by 2027, we may automate AI R&D, leading to vastly superhuman AIs. That's Danico Cottagel, and a lot of people have been seeing the video that was made about that paper. It's called AI 2027. You can go look it up on YouTube if you're interested. But and there's also the sort of trend of AI over the past 6 years or so since the advent of ChatGPT. That ChatGPT 1 was about GPT 2 was about preschool level intelligence, and then GPT 3 was about elementary school level intelligence, and now GPT 4 is about high school level intelligence, and now we're at like 03. And it's close to, basically undergrad intelligence. And it's passing Google-proof question-answer sets of questions that are only supposed to be designed to be answerable by expert academics in very specific technical domains, like, bioengineering. It's at like the 90th percentile for these, what they call GPQA question sets. And it just seems like with that and, that rate of progress. I was talking to an Uber driver the other day, and he was like, "Yeah, it got AI got really good really quickly. In 2018, AI could barely write a sentence or produce an image, and now we're at the point where the image and video and text is impossible to distinguish from reality. With
People are
Google's,
falling in love with it.
Yeah, I mean, Google's VO3 video generator is perfect. So like that rate of progress makes it seem like we might very soon create something that would be able to automate the process of AI research and development. And AI is also OpenAI's O3 model is the 175th, or actually O1, it's outdated. It's the 175th best programmer in the world. There's only 175 humans better at this competition code force benchmark.
You brought up climate change before, and I think there's a really important analogy, which is that a lot of projections for climate change, they rely on these central estimates, the average estimate, right? In the real world, it turns out a lot of things happened a lot faster, and they're continuing to happen a lot faster. And this kind of evidence should make us, there's uncertainty, right? But the uncertainty should not be used as a cause for reassurance. Uncertainty is what should make us proactive, and because uncertainty hides the potential for very dangerous consequences here. I think we both can agree on that. And when it comes down, you know what the important number is? It's not like 1% or 2%. It's what gets you off your couch and into the street, or what gets you off the street and in front of one of the offices of these companies to shut their doors and say, this is not acceptable. There's more than like, I can say that. That's an easy thing to say. This is not acceptable. But if I'm not actually doing anything to stop it, what am I doing in principle? I'm accepting it. So it has to, if it is actually unacceptable, this actually, it confers a responsibility on us not to accept it. That is, to stop it. And that's the argument they were trying to make, that it's not so much about what any objective number that can be put on it, but it's really about how willing are you to accept responsibility for what you can do to safeguard, to protect your community and the lives of the people you love. So what are you going to do? What do you do?
Wait, everyone in favor of permanently banning artificial superintelligence, raise your hand. All right,
I can
there
go
we
for that.
So yeah.
I'm just, from your point of view, it's like, you're not just an observer, but you're a participant in this world. What do you see your role as?
I mean, I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, to be honest. I do a lot of writing. It's made, a very, very small impact. But nonetheless, calling attention to the underlying ideologies that are driving this race toward utopia, which again I would describe as entailing human extinction, is good. It's enabled a few people to make sense of the current situation in a way that they weren't able to before.
Well, we love it when you shit on rationalists. So.
Yeah.
One last
I love
question.
doing that. Yeah.
Should humanity endure?
Don't
think too hard on this one.
Yes, we should. Absolutely.
All right.
So I found that much easier to answer than Peter did.
Team Human forever.
Yeah, Team Human.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Dr. Torres.
Thanks for having me.